Hi, welcome to Girls and Getaways Study Edition. Today, we're going to talk about how to study abroad for free. Libre? Yes, as in libreng tuition, libreng living expense, libreng health insurance, libreng flights. Paano? Scholarships.
Hi, hello. I'm Ruth. I'm currently living in Australia. I just finished my master's here in Sydney University. I studied my undergrad in the Philippines, which is Bachelor of Science in Architecture. And after that, like in 20, I graduated undergrad in 2010, and in 2012 I went to Taiwan to study a Master of Science in Creative and Sustainable Architecture study, very long name. I studied it in NTUT in Taipei, Taiwan. And then 2018, I came here to Australia to study my Master of Architectural Science, specializing in illumination design and sustainable design.
I took my undergrad in Ateneo de Manila University. I took Bachelor of Science in Management Engineering, and then I studied my master's in University of Otago, taking Masters of Entrepreneurship and focused on sustainable business. I think so. I focused on impact investing for my final project.
Hi, ako naman, I'm Michelle. I studied Bachelor of Science in Computer Science at De La Salle University. And I did my master's in video game enterprise and production in the UK at Birmingham City University. And now I'm doing my PhD in the School of Design at RMIT in Australia. Tell us about what scholarships you got and how did you get them?
Okay, so I received three scholarships so far. So the first one was
Matalino
master.
siya.
No,
Oh
the first one
my.
was for the first one was Taiwan scholarship for my studies in Taiwan, which was for 2 years. The second one I got was Endeavour postgraduate scholarship for the masters in here in Australia. And then the third one is the Vice Chancellor International Scholarship that was given by University of Sydney upon admission. Ganun.
Tell us a little bit more about what those gave you.
Okay, so for Taiwan scholarship, they are covering your tuition up to a certain amount. Usually covered naman siya. And then it provides a monthly stipend or allowance of like 20,000 Taiwan dollars for the whole 2 years of my study. And then yeah, and then for the Endeavour, they covered like tuition up to a certain degree then. So my cap yung there's a tuition cap, and then they provide a tuition allowance of 3,000 like during my time because I started in 2018, so the rates would be different for the previous years or the ones after. So I received 3,000 Australian dollars per month. It's pro rata, so I started school in 2018 in July, and then my scholarship ended in June 2020. So it really depends on like how long you study. And then that also covers the OSHC, which is the Overseas Student Health, like health cover.
Insurance.
Yeah, the health insurance. And they also provided the establishment allowance, which was I think 4,000 Australian dollars. To get settled in Australia. And then that also provides travel allowance, like for the flights coming here to Australia, coming here and then going back. The scholarship from like the Vice Chancellor's International Scholarship, it was just a cash award. It was like 10,000 Australian dollars.
So I studied in New Zealand through the New Zealand Awards. So the New Zealand Awards covers in the same as Endeavour in a way. It covers your tuition fee. It covers your, they give you a stipend every week, and then well, every fortnight, and then they also give you an establishment allowance. They pay for your flight back and forth. For my stipend, I think I got 490 a week, I think. So sorry, I was studying last year, so I don't remember as much detail. But I think there's also the establishment allowance was 3,000 New Zealand dollars. And then so for the flights, they're the ones who book for you. They cover for your IELTS. They cover for your visa applications. Basically, the goal is that you don't spend anything. But the catch is that you have to come home to the Philippines for 2 years. Well, wherever you're from, wherever you got your home country, you have to go home to your home country for 2 years.
Pero worth it then kasi they covered
Most,
everything.
almost everything. Yeah. Scholarship. They also covered my visa fee.
Oh, yeah.
For the visa fee for study, and then in Australia they also covered my visa because it's the scholarship, the Endeavour, is actually from Australian government, so they also covered my visa fee, which is really good because it was expensive.
Yeah, it is expensive. Were yung health yung health pa lang
Oh,
eh.
they also covered for the health exam?
Yeah.
For
Just-
Taiwan,
okay.
I paid for the health insurance myself.
Mhm.
I mean, like the health check, the medical
Yeah.
exam. Sorry. And then in Taiwan, the Xianbao, the health insurance, I had to pay it
Mhm.
myself. So it was coming out
Mhm.
of my stipend.
Right, yeah.
But in Australia, the health insurance is covered by the scholarship. How about you?
Okay, compared to them, sobrang not as much.
But yours is 3 years, 4 years. So
Three and a
like
half. So the first, I studied my master's in the UK. That was like mostly self-funded, but I got an external scholarship, and it's called the Top Tall Women in STEM Scholarship. Actually, Women in Tech Scholarship. If you go to their website, which I will leave the link down below, you will see my face because I am their poster child. So that one was a little bit different because it was like 5,000 US dollars. Tapos a mentorship for a year. That was my year. Tapos the next year, they're giving 10,000 US dollars. I
Times
missed
two.
out. Times two agad eh.
Sayang.
Parang, wow.
Sayang.
Pero I didn't get that one. Tapos sa uni naman, yung unis in the UK are not super generous. So pag nagbibigay sila ng scholarship or something, it's lang, like 10%, 20%. So I think I got like 20% off lang. So not as much. Tapos that's it. Tapos in another video, we'll talk
that's
about
still
how
something.
to we'll talk about how to self-fund your moving abroad. Pero the Australia one naman is with the PhD. It's the scholarship from the schools. So it's research. I don't know what training. RTP. I don't remember what
Research
RTP
training program.
research training program. Tapos it's offered from the school, pero yung funding nila is galing sa government. Tapos it's anyone who's taking a master's by research or PhD can apply for it. Tapos literally checkbox lang siya. Tapos what they give is covered yung tuition mo. Like since PhD, matagal-tagal na aral. So they will cover up to 3.5 years of tuition, and mas mahal mag-aral sa Australia. So for me, like, oh, that's good. And they give a stipend then, which is 31,000 Australian dollars for the whole year.
For the whole year.
Tapos pro rata din siya. And they cover relocation, but it's only up to a certain, it's up to a certain amount, and it's actually parang reimburse siya. Like how much yung ginastos mo, yun lang yung
Yun lang.
And
Did they
kasi
cover
medyo,
did they cover your flight?
Yeah, that one. Tapos medyo natanga ako sa flight kasi medyo pangit yung schedule ng PAL flying into Melbourne. So ako parang, okay, di ako nag-PAL. Nag-Cebu pa ako.
Wait,
And
so hindi cover ang OSHC mo?
oh yeah, covered din yung health insurance.
Covered, diba? Like
Yeah,
you mentioned
covered din
earlier,
yung
it
health
wasn't
insurance.
covered.
Yeah, that was covered. But yeah, yun lang. So I only got back whatever money I spent for my Cebu pack flight, which I missed out. Kasi
Sayang.
medyo sayang
Sayang.
kasi they could have given me much more. Okay, so how did you find the scholarships? Like, kailangan ba maging matalino to get a scholarship?
Uh, for me, I would say like before I applied for scholarships, I felt like yeah, that was the case. Like okay, you have to have good grades or something. But I would say not necessarily. Like I've read some books kasi on like ano, how do you get scholarships, ganyan. And the advice was that like you actually don't really have to be like a super A student, you know, because you can counter like your grades and like include like you know your extracurricular activities, kind of. Um, so share ko na lang din with the USC kasi I wasn't like a superstar student, you know. My overall like I think GPA was like 88, around 88, 89 lang. Um, and then no, that's including grades na parang halos like passing grades. I had grades na passing grades, pasang awa. But the overall like GPA I had was like 88, 89 lang ganyan. So it was like 1.8 USC with the one being the highest grade. And then when I applied for Taiwan scholarship, yeah, like I didn't know what like what exactly were their what they were looking for, like you know, kailangan bang high grades. Hindi naman. So if I could get a scholarship with like you know 88 grades, that's kind of okay. And then in Sydney, I'm not quite sure with Sydney because when I got the international scholar, the vice chancellor, that is actually based on admission ranking. That's what I believe. What I understand it is. So my admission ranking was kind of high because when I graduated from Taiwan, I had a 4.0, which is like the highest 4.0 over 4.0.
And valedictorian ka.
Wow.
That was like out of 6 students in my
But
class.
still, valedictorian pa rin.
So like I guess like you know having pretty good grades in Taiwan kind of did help me, but I guess it still depends on like the overall package that you present in your scholarship application. That you know if you've done a lot of like volunteering, extracurricular activities, I think that really helps then. It's not just the grade.
So I guess if you're looking for scholarships, it's not advisable to apply for something you're not in your line of expertise, I guess. During undergrad was really bad. So I was like bottom 3 in the batch of like 80 people.
But
So
like what around what grades did you get at that time? Like let's say average when you graduated.
out of 4, sorry, the highest is 4, so maybe it's 2.79, I think.
Same tayo. Nasa mga 2.6 nga lang ako eh.
Yeah.
So
Pero
okay,
parang
not necessarily kailangan high grades, diba?
Yeah, go on.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
pero no, it's required if you wanna. I tried for university scholarships, and one of the main reasons was I didn't have a high grade in undergrad. So I got assessed. So I tried applying for university scholarships or any kind of scholarships, and they all said, you're from the Philippines, so your undergrad is not recognized as undergrad. You lack number of years. It doesn't help that your grades were really low. They said if you had enough work experience, or if you had work experience in that field, um, then you would have a chance. So as you apply more, you get smarter on how to apply, I guess. So I did apply for something I really wanted, so which is the impact investing, social enterprises, or businesses with impact. And I said I had my background is finance, investment. So I really had a background in that. It's just that you think there's less of an income potential if you work in that space. So initially I was resistant, but I gave in. I said, okay, I really want to do this anyway, so might as well. So that's when I applied for a scholarship that's focused on that. And it also helps that I was already working with social enterprise at that time. So I think when you apply for development related scholarships and you really want to help your country, you really want to help the space that you want to focus on, that and you have some experience. I had management finance experience. That would put less weight on your grades in uni.
Mhm.
So when I was applying for the track na I had no experience in, they were only basing it on my uni grades. So they had no other way of assessing my capabilities. But when I applied for a master's of entrepreneurship, but with the intention to focus on impact investments and social enterprises, I I had I had almost 10 years experience when I applied in investments, and I was already working with social enterprises. So that that was able to help balance out my low grades in uni, in undergrad. So grades do matter because multiple institutions across the globe told me your grades are low. So it does matter. So when I applied for whatever I really wanted, and I guess the application essay and your interview, it really it really showed parang that you really want this or that you're passionate about something. So yeah, kasi the scholarship I went through, I had an online test, I had the essay, I had an interview. So it was a lot of steps. So they really want to get to know their scholars and why you're applying. Uh, that's the reason na medyo nag-lessen yung weight ng grades.
I
Okay.
think same tayo kasi like I worked a lot. Like I worked in games. So I was a games programmer for like 8 years when I went to the UK. So before that, and then I went to UK ganon. Tapos I also went for a very niche scholarship. So parang
Mhm.
yung what I was looking for was like yung mga hindi in-applyan ng tao. So pag nakahanap ka ng scholarship that people don't know about, like alam mo naman na wala
Go for
masyadong
it.
mag-a-apply. Just go for it. Kasi
Go for
parang,
it.
why not? Like, it was sponsored by a company. Parang, so since not that many people knew about it, less competition,
Yeah,
more
that's
chances.
true.
Yeah, so parang galon. And that was like, ano lang, like there was like an essay and then an interview. Tapos parang when I was during my year, parang they were giving 12 scholarships, so like one person per month. Tapos parang it depends on how many people, and it's anyway, it's a rolling basis. So parang
Mm.
okay, so this month these people apply ganyan. Actually during my interview noon, parang sabi niya parang oh, actually for this month there was somebody who was like better, so parang so you won't get for this month, but maybe next month you'll get it ganyan. Tapos so the next month, I
Good.
got it nga. Ganyan. So medyo weird siya. Pero they changed it a bit now that they're giving it based on like continents. But that changes like every year with these like company sponsored scholarships. Like I did LaSalle, nag-aral akong comsci. So if you don't know, lahat ng tao bumabagsak pag comsci. So sobrang baba lang ng grades ko. And ano, I think it's the work experience that really helped. And when I was in the UK, like lahat ng mahal kasi mag-attend ng mga events doon. Pero if you volunteer, it's free. So I went all out. Like lahat ng mga pwedeng salihan, lahat ng pwedeng mag-volunteer. Like every time that there's like any student award, whatever, and mag-apply ako. Like, I don't care if I get it or not, basta mag-apply lang ako. You miss 100% of chances you don't get. And dahil doon, I was named one of 100 of game industry's future talent. So parang,
Wow.
so that's like
Wow.
for all of like UK,
Wow.
ganon. So I think that really helped with applying for PhD. Tsaka my grades in the UK medyo nag-improve. Kasi alam ko, every time you apply to the next step, kunwari from bachelor's to master's to PhD, yung titingnan lang nila mostly is the one before. So So for PhD, mostly na tiningnan nila is the masters, ganyan. So parang medyo in-improve ko na yung grades
I
ko
improve your
ng
grade. Okay, that's good.
yeah, medyo nag-improve.
Yeah,
Nag-graduate naman ako with distinction. Tapos, yeah, and went for all the awards that I could get or something. And that really helped with the scholarship, getting the scholarship for the PhD.
Where to look
Yeah.
for scholarships? So how do we get started on looking for scholarships? So well, for me, in my case, when I was like looking for scholarships, the first thing I looked at was the government level. Because so from like research I've done, the most amount of funding actually you can get from given by government. So one of that was like Taiwan government, so they were covering tuition. They also cover at least your living expenses. And then for Australia, for Endeavour, yeah, they covered tuition, well, mostly of the tuition, and then the stipend. And then for the next, I guess the next tier would be like the schools or the universities. This one, like I guess in your case of like PCU, they were providing tuition fee like offset or like discounts to a certain percentage lang. It's either a fixed amount or a certain percentage lang. So I've also looked into universities kasi in the UK. And yeah, like the most I think I've seen that's being offered by the university is actually like 25% discount, like tuition discount.
Yeah.
But they don't provide like living costs whatsoever. So the benefits for school or university scholarship is actually lower than like if you get a scholarship from government level. And then what are the typical requirements for applying for scholarships? So, okay, this is specific to each organization that's giving out the scholarship. So if it's government or university, the requirements are actually pretty different. So maybe we can just talk about like for each scholarships we've received, what were the requirements that you were, let's say, required to submit, let's say, is it transcript or something?
Oh, the PhD kasi since it was a school scholarship, it was a checkbox.
So I mean, like you submitted your transcript,
Yeah, it was just with
was
the
there a
normal.
motivation letter?
Walang motivation letter. It was just like yung normal ng we'll probably make another video on how to apply to schools. Pero yeah, it was just part of the application lang. Tapos parang tinanong like parang are you
do you want to be considered for a scholarship?
Yeah,
okay.
It was literally a checkbox.
Okay.
So for New Zealand scholarships, I think you apply for the scholarship first. So there was a letter of motivation, I think, and then there was a long list. So after that long list, before the long list, they would ask the typical requirements, and then like your transcript and stuff, I think. And then there's a long list, and they would have a short list, and then they would um they
So
ask me.
sorry, can I interrupt? What's a long list and a short list? Is that like parang list of like applicants for like the na screen, ganon?
So there
List of
were
requirements.
stages. There were stages. So yes. For the long list and short list, I think walang additional requirements. They're just telling you they don't want to they want to inform you. For example, you're part of the long list. They'll tell you you're still being considered for the scholarship. Parang ganun. You're still in the running. So it's just a way of informing you na you're still part of it. And then I think there was a short list. And then after the short list, you have to go through an interview and the online psychometric test, I think. But that was my time, so I'm not sure. But there was an online test that I had to
Yung
take.
interview, was it online then?
No. The interview had to go to the embassy.
Ng New Zealand.
Yes.
Was it in Makati?
Yes.
Yeah.
So ayun, so the interview also, and then they'll tell you if you are the preferred candidate, parang ganun, or there was a term, they used the term, hindi ko masyado maalala yung term right now. They'll tell you, and then you'll be allowed to apply to the university that you want to apply to. So that's another set of requirements. Pero this time, part na ng application mo sa university is the letter that they're giving that they will give you a scholarship once you get a spot at the university. So that helps
Okay.
your
So,
chances.
okay.
Parang
What
ganun.
was the interview pala like?
The interview, they give you a list of guide questions. So it's really,
Prior to it?
pardon?
Like prior to the interview, they give you the guide?
Yeah. Sa website naman, the website's very helpful. They give you parang a list of guide questions. So,
Mm-hmm.
hindi naman sinasabi na gayahin nila lahat yun. Parang these
Mm-hmm.
are list of possible questions lang. So, with that, it's mostly based on your motivation, letter of motivation, and it's based on your plans when you go home to the Philippines. What do you want to do? So
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's very important na you're very clear about what you want to do after you study and why you
Yung,
want to take
yeah.
that program. Parang ganon. Kasi they would ask, why did you apply for this university? Why did you apply for this program? So you have to you have to be honest. Why do you want to apply for the program? And then what do you plan to do after? So like, hindi yung I want to work for an organization, ganon. They would ask for specific actions talaga.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So for Taiwan scholarship, um, they of course they generally ask for the transcript, and then a study plan. So the study plan is kind of like the motivation letters, like what are you applying for, like what kind of study and why. You have to explain, what are your future plans. So for me, I did kind of like, I mean, like, I did what specific na I wanted to study, like sustainability, diba? Because I studied creative and sustainable architecture in Taiwan. So I had to declare that, okay, I wanted to study lighting and sustainability. Like my interest, what drew me to want to study in Taiwan. Um, and then there was no interview for Taiwan scholarship. Actually, there was, but at that time, I think I was like in China, or like going to China, and then I couldn't come in for an actual interview. So what happened was that they advised me that, okay, so whatever I've submitted in my application in Taiwan scholarship, they're gonna base their assessment based on the documents I've submitted, because I don't have the interview. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then so yeah, like the documentation lang siya. With Australia for Endeavour, there was no interview, so I also just submitted like all the documents they required. So there was that, again, like para motivation letter, and then the documents I had to submit my undergrad and my graduate school, like Taiwan transcript, diploma. Um, yeah. So, but ang process kasi with Endeavour is that I had to have an offer letter already from the university. So I actually applied to Sydney Uni, November 2016. And then I applied for Endeavour. So in that application, I actually had to include the offer letter. I had an unconditional offer from Sydney Uni.
Medyo napahaba, pero yeah, let us know in the comments below what other topics you want us to cover. Like if you want us to tell you how to write a motivation letter, any tips and tricks during the interviews, how to apply for student visa or something. Leave a comment down below. Tapos, the usual, subscribe and hit the
Hit
bell
that
icon.
notification
Yeah,
bell.
that thing.